April 26 is Power of Econ Day. Stay tuned at the end of this podcast to find out about the free, engaging financial literacy resources for Power of Econ Day, brought to you by Econ Essentials and Discovery Education. The best professional development for math teachers and how to use it. Episode 294. The 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with Vicki Davis. Every weekday, you'll learn powerful, practical ways to be a more remarkable teacher today. Today, we're talking with David Petro, a math and science consultant from Ontario, Canada. David, you have a real belief about the best PD that you have ever had. What is it?
I'd like to say that the best PD that I've had and I have been using for almost 8 or 9 years now has been Twitter. In fact, to me, Twitter is more than a place that celebrities and politicians can share their thoughts. Turns out it's actually a great place that educators meet and share what they're doing in their classrooms.
Some of us, me included, have gotten frustrated with Twitter because it's not quite, used to. I could go in the airport and tweet out, hey, I'm in the Atlanta airport. And then other friends would see it immediately and we could meet up and chat and have lunch. And it used to just be chronological and you'd see everything. And now we're not seeing everything quite as much as we used to. How are you getting around that problem?
I guess I kind of use Twitter differently. I don't use it as a communication tool between people, at least not at first. I use it to look for things that relate to education. And to do that, I actually really focus more on hashtags instead of people. So I'm less worried about people following me or me following people. And I instead worry about following hashtags. When I'm using Twitter, I'm using an app like TweetDeck. I've got my different hashtags lined up, and I'm looking at what people are sending using those hashtags.
Okay, so what are your favorite hashtags, David?
Because everyone has favorite hashtags, right? Mm-hmm. I guess when I first started using Twitter, I thought, hashtag math would be a really great Twitter hashtag to follow. But as it turns out, there's a lot of people that don't like math. And they're happy, and they're happy to talk about it and say lots of bad things about math on Twitter. But I quickly found out that math chat, hashtag math chat, is actually a really great hashtag because usually when people use that hashtag, they're basically saying, here is something that is related to math, and there's usually a picture, there's usually a link to something related to math and usually related to math education. That's actually quite useful. That means that tweet has really got some meat to it. It turns out that there's lots of quote chat hashtags. There's SciChat and EdChat and LM for elementary chat. There's LM chat. And when people use those hashtags, they're basically saying, hey, this tweet is about something to do with this thing. And you might find it useful.
So you've named LM Chat, ELEM Chat, SciChat, SCI Chat. What else?
So you said we only have about 8 to 10 minutes. I've got a list.
Give us some and tell us what they're about.
I usually use math as the main focus of my Twitter presence. And so some of the math hashtags that I use besides math chat, one of the most recent ones that has actually become quite popular, and it's kind of funny to say, it's MTBOS. Some people pronounce it MTBOS, and that actually stands for the Math Twitter Blogosphere. What that really means is this is a community of teachers from around the world that have basically started using Twitter to communicate with each other, to share their math journey, a look inside their classrooms, and at the same time have started blogging about what they've done. And so it's a combination of looking at blogs and reading Twitter, and they've all sort of created this community of math teachers. And you can pretty much be sure that if it has the hashtag MTBOS, there's something about teaching math in that Twitter post. More recently, there was a little bit of a brouhaha because people thought it's a very cryptic hashtag, MTBOS, if you don't know what it is. And I think it might have been Dan Meyer, I know he's been on your show, who suggested changing that to hashtag I teach math. And so that seems like a much more reasonable hashtag to use. So MTBOS or I teach math are really also great hashtags to follow.
Yeah, the one thing about using a cryptic hashtag is that sometimes it does keep the spammers away, doesn't it?
It does.
But it can also keep people who might want to find it useful away too.
That's right. It's a double-edged sword.
So that's great, the conversations that you're having. Now, are there any other ones that you recommend that you find really useful?
I find that in terms of hashtags, you have to really try stuff out. And so when I like using SciChat is another good one, because that one is usually related to science education. As a science consultant, I'm looking for that. There's all kinds of variants on hashtags. So even for our people in the UK, they'll use maths chat with an S. Mm-hmm. And so there's you just have to sort of try with variants. And it really does depend on what you are looking for. Because I'm mostly dealing with math, that's kind of where my focus has been. But if you actually just search on that thing called Google for educational hashtags, you wouldn't believe the list that you'll come up with.
And we'll put a link in. Jerry Blumengarten's Cybrary Man 1 has lots of great links. So, David, tell us a story of, because I'll tell you this. I mean, I've trained teachers on Twitter, and then they go and delete their Twitter account right at the end. And I'm like, oh, my goodness, there's so many useful things. Tell us a story about something that's happened that you found about on Twitter and it improved the classroom.
So, if I can go back to the MTBOS, this is a grassroots group of teachers who actually, they started to create their own conference in the summer. They call it the Twitter Math Camp. At Twitter Math Camp, they call it, if you've used Twitter, you might heard the phrase a tweet up. Do you know what a tweet up is?
Oh, of course.
So that's when you physically meet the people that you know on Twitter. And so they've developed this huge tweet up where they meet at some place in North America every summer for 4 days and just, talk about math. They have, like a regular conference, only it's super grassroots. And so it's interesting because last year I actually went to my first Twitter Math Camp. I presented a topic with a teacher who I'd never met before from California, only on Twitter. And so we actually presented a workshop together, and it was a really interesting experience to present with somebody cold that you've never actually physically talked to before.
Awesome. And so what did you take away from Twitter Math Camp? Did you have a lot of resources, a lot of ideas, or how did it compare to, the other more formal math conferences you go to?
It was interesting because I wasn't sure what to expect from it, but it turned out to be one of the best conferences I had ever been to for myself. And I think because those people who, it sounds kind of accusational, those people are all just as geeked about math as I am. So the depth with which we talked about topics was went right into the night, which was a really, really great community to be part of.
Okay, so as we finish up, 30-second pep talk to math teachers on jumping in to Twitter for learning about math.
Don't write Twitter off. It's a great place to find stuff. As long as you're not looking for anything too specific, that feed is a really great place to find ideas that you've never thought of before, to teach math and to bring math alive for your kids every day.
So teachers, sign up for Twitter. Use something like TweetDeck. I use something called Hootsuite. Yes, the algorithms have changed, and lots of us who've been around for a long time have complained about it. But you know what? There's still a lot of usefulness in Twitter. I still find it useful, even if it has changed from the, quote, good old days when I could actually meet a friend in the airport because I tweeted it out and they saw it on Twitter. So things do change on us, but we can still use these tools for awesome professional development. On April 26th, celebrate Power of Econ on Twitter with Discovery Education, CME Group, and their Econ Essentials program. We'll have free resources available for downloading. To join the celebration, tune into the Twitter chat with me, fellow teachers, and the CME Group's chief economist on April 26th at noon Eastern Time using hashtag Power of Econ. Visit coolcatteacher.com/econ for more information. And remember, tweet out your pics on April 26th about how you teach your students financial literacy using hashtag Power of Econ.
Thank you for listening to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. You can download the show notes and see the archive at coolcatteacher.com/podcast. Never stop learning.